Sounds good. Let's
Okay.
do it. It didn't matter if it was pretty, didn't matter if it was, she was just going to do it. And that's what's special is she can take her body to a place that most people are not willing to go. And to be quite honest, she can stay there for quite some time.
Bonjour, hello. This is the new number of All the Talk, number 64 today. We have a special guest, like I used to say. But first of all, don't forget to follow the movement and support us with a click on the button, like or follow us on YouTube, Instagram, or all the podcast platform that we have. So today, special guest, we have the CEO, head coach of the Sarasota Shark Swimming Club in Florida. Welcome, Brent Arkey. How are you, Brent, today?
Great. Thanks for having me, Greg. This will be fun.
I'm very pleased to have you. I hunt you a little bit for this one, but I didn't give up. So we are finally into it. So,
Yeah,
Brent,
man.
let's jump into it. From what we have, like the recent news we had from Worlds, we are coming back from Budapest, where you were on the Canadian team with me. I think we both had a great meet. It was a great competition. Tell me, you're like a week after. How do you feel about the great achievement that Summer McIntosh and you as a team did there?
Well, obviously we're very proud of it. A lot of work and a lot of planning going into that, especially coming off the Olympic Games. You never know what that's going to be like. From really, to be quite honest, both of us, you've got a teenage girl coming off of a fantastic Olympics. I was not concerned, but certainly interested in how she was going to respond to that. And also, I learned a little bit about myself. I mean, I was pretty drained after the Olympics. I didn't realize how drained I was. So that's been interesting. And for me, looking back, a week later now, um, knowing knowing how the fall went, I think I'm just even more proud of Summer and how she's just been super tough about this whole situation. I mean, just so you guys know, we had three hurricanes here back to back to back,
Yeah.
which is I mean, I've lived in Florida basically my entire life, and I've never done three back to back to back before. So that was a unique challenge, and so certainly some challenges this fall, and I think some of that just speaks to how tough Summer is and how great her preparation is. Um, again, and as being an American, I'm not. I've never, I haven't paid attention to short course meter swimming the way that maybe we've paid attention to short course yard swimming. So it was a lot of fun being at that meet, and obviously that meet was so fast and from a world record standpoint. I guess it was just a pretty cool experience all the way through, and I kind of liked the whole process post Olympics. It was a great learning experience for both of us. So.
How long was the you talk about the struggle with the hurricane and everything? How long was this period for you? How did you manage this? How did you train? Did you do some indoor stuff? Did you move out to Canada? What was your adaptation around this?
Yeah, so for one of them, I was traveling to a clinic. I was talking in Calgary actually. Um, so the good news and the bad news is we're in control of the water here. So we run the facility, which is awesome, but anytime stuff like this happens, it's our responsibility. So I have my one of my guys that's been with me for a long time, Andrew Eckhart. He also runs he helps run the mechanicals. So between he and I, when stuff like this goes down, we're the first people in the pump room, making sure that the pumps are done. If you had like a government just running your pumps, they'll just shut them off and hope for the best, and you never know what's going to happen when you come back. We were 12 hours after the maybe less than that, 10 hours after the hurricane passed, we were in the pump room making sure everything was okay. So, we managed a lot of the downtime. I think we probably only missed, I don't know, half a dozen practices the entire time, and maybe not even that many. And obviously there are other people that missed a lot more. But I think a lot of that is just because of the way that we manage the pool and try to take care of the pool. So really, we didn't miss, like I said, a handful of practices. We do most of our strength and conditioning stuff outside, so we were a little challenged there, but we just kind of roll with it, and it becomes a way of life. Like if you live down here, you're always missing some time for hurricanes in the fall. It just happens. It's just rarely that it's three in a row.
Adaptation is a key word in our world, I think, Brent. But let's come back to the competition, where I think, if I don't miscount, Summer is coming back with 3 world records, 1 world record junior. World record are the 400 AM medley, the 200 fly, the 400 free, and the world junior 200 back, which was an exciting event for you to to see what she could go there. And to mention, the world record she beat there was like, she had to beat some great world record from some legend of swimming, and I'm talking about Mireia Belmonte, about the
Yep.
400 AM, the 200 fly. I know you are very proud. I start to get to know you a little bit more, and I start to read your excitement when you are, because at first I thought that you were more introvert and keeping a lot of inside, but the more I get to know you, the more I see you celebrate your way. What is your take on those events? Like, did you expect her, of course, to beat those world records? Did you expect her to smash those world records by that far?
Yeah, so again, we're pretty fortunate down here. We've been training short meters quite a bit. We're always training some version of either short meters or long meters during the fall. So I've had some sets that we've kind of indicated that she was ready to go that fast. Obviously, coming off the Olympics, 400 free, 400 IM, 200 fly, we're so good there. Our big emphasis was what were the walls going to look like. So for me, um, it kind of ends up that 400 free when it's first like that kind of stresses me out because it's a hard event to. Well, I would say that the turns we spent so much time working on this fall, and I was nervous about, hey, did some of that work actually take hold? And um, really, what we've seen is from her push to probably about 5 or 6 meters has gotten significantly better. I would say that our underwater still have room for development, but we've worked a lot on getting off the wall better and trying to get into the wall better. And the stats are saying that has happened. So for me, once that 400 free went off, I knew that the rest of the meet was wide open for her to be as good as she wanted to be. It's just it's a the 400 free has just been a difficult one to start the meet with, I guess. So, and then the 400, then we had the 200 fly. I've watched her do some really awesome stuff, fly in practice. And I actually think she can continue to bring that one down. She can always bring it down. She's young, but I think there's room. There's a lot of room in that 200 fly. Um, the 400 IM, I don't want to be, I told you so, but I told somebody that I thought she could be 415. The thing with Summer is she's such a good racer. Sometimes I worry if there's not somebody in her face. I know what she's capable of. I've seen the stuff at swim practice. But if there's sometimes if there's not somebody in her face, I think she's not as good as she could possibly be. But I'd rather have somebody who's a racer than the alternative, right?
Mhm.
So it helps when there's somebody there pressing. And then the 200 backstroke is just, I think it's a developing event for her. It's good for her IM. I think it's actually her most natural stroke. And again, there's stuff to be learned there as well. So
But
yeah, so not a total surprise, but certainly Fred was behind me after the 400
yeah,
IM, and I just shake his hand and lots of respect, and that's what records are for, right? They're there to be broken and move the sport forward, and I'm glad I get to be a part of something as special as Summer's career.
I talked to Fred Vernew during the competition. She's a good friend. He's a good friend of mine, and he was the just before the race. I think I told you so. He was telling me that he calculated everything, and so he was saying, "Oh shit! Like this record is going down. There is no way she's not gonna beat that record." But he is happy that it's Summer who hold those record now. Now he's gonna have. He still have some European record with Mireia. He still have
Sure,
some Spanish record with her. I told him that the Catalan record, which is the province where
yep.
he used to train before, are going to hold for a century there. So he doesn't have to worry. So shout out to Fred Vernew. So before I come back to the Olympics, how did you? Because I know, like with Mary and I, we decided to have a very short break. I knew that going to World was for me the end of the Olympic cycle, the World Short Course Swimming. It was a goal that she had in mind. She wanted to be there. She never had the opportunity to really race, get prepared like this for a short course international competition. So we just had a 3 weeks, I would say, a little bit less or somehow like this, like 3 weeks prep.
Sure.
Got back into it. We didn't train that much, but maintained a good quality of training out of, I would say, we are averaging like 6.5 workouts a week, plus a lot of work outside of the water. That's where I think we change a lot of our training. But for you, how was it? Like, how long was the break for Summer, and how did you run? How did you prep for that meet?
So, this might end up being kind of a long answer, but she was about 2.5 weeks out of the water. My and I'm sure she'll remember it this way. My approach has always been, especially for athletes like Summer. I've had a handful of international level guys that their summers end up being elongated. Um, I always tell them, hey, you've got to be willing to do everything you just did and maybe more. And if you aren't excited about that, take a little more time. It's okay. And she's super driven. She wanted to come back pretty quickly and get up and running. And as long as her response was, "Hey, I'm ready to go," I'm okay with it. Um, Now that being said, we kind of have a unique situation in Florida here. We so our club is especially at the higher level, say like the junior national level and above. We focus on short course swimming August to late December. And then we kind of switch to a more long course focus from January to July. And there's some checkpoints in there. Usually in the spring, I'll give an option for either people to go to a short course meet to go get recruitable times, or we go to a pro series meet with and go long course with some of our international level kids. So this December timeline has always been something that we do here. So, like for instance, the rest of the group that I coach was at short course juniors, and so we were all getting ready for a short course meet in December, and that's kind of the way that our whole year is set up. And I think there's a lot of merit in coming off of a lot of really good long course training, taking and continuing to utilize a lot of that training, whether it be trying to fix turns like we were talking about with Summer. Hey, get stronger. Those were kind of the two things. Be as smart as we possibly can and get as strong as we possibly can in the fall here. The rest of the group is kind of in the same boat. The volume might be slightly less. Intensity would be as high, maybe higher, and we're doing a little more resistance work and a little bit more strength work. And so all of that was part of the plan for me because of this winter. And so what we're doing right now is we take we usually take somewhere around 4 to 6 days off around the holiday. And again, not everybody in the United States does that, but the way that Florida is set up, it's made it so we take a little break in August, we take a little break in December. If you're not an international level athlete, you're taking your spring break off. And so you're getting a month off, but it's actually inside of a training plan instead of just taking a month off in August, which a lot of places do because that's just how their calendar works. I think it kind of fits into what Summer wanted to do almost perfectly. And we've been getting people ready for December meets my entire career here.
Um, Talking about and coming back to the great Olympic that she had, where she come back, if I don't mistake, with 3 gold medal, 4 gold medal, three
400,
gold medal,
yeah,
400 free, 400 IM, 200 fly,
no, four IM,
so 4
two
IM,
fly, two IM.
2 fly, 2 IM, sorry.
Yep.
400 frees, and we're going to talk about the 400 that's for sure. That's for sure. Because we talk about how much she liked to race, and that's one of the races I think where she has the most, I would say, people to race with. Uh,
100%.
in
Well,
that,
and the 200 IM as well. That 200
the
IM
200
is,
AM as well is
yeah,
another challenge because she's coming in without, she doesn't have that speed yet that all those girls can have, but she's
sure.
able to have an all-around very, very good race. Um, I mean, what she did for Canadian swimming was pretty much historical there. And at this age, getting into the Olympics, we spent a lot of time together during the camp before and during the meet. Before I jump into Summer, was it for you? Was your first Olympic experience as a coach, like me? I know that for me it was a very big challenge, very demanding. You have to be on every minute of it and ready for every option or everything could happen in the meet, and a lot of stuff happened all the time, as you know. But how was it for you, this meet? Like physically, mentally, how did you get ready for it? What was your mentality getting into the Olympic Games in Paris?
Yeah, so I think I've been pretty fortunate. My experience and career has kind of slowly, I guess it would be quickly progressed, but it's progressed. I've kind of had to figure out each step. I think probably I've done it quicker than the average person, but I haven't really had to skip a whole lot of steps. And I guess what I mean by that is, I started as an age group coach, trying to be the best, age group coach in my city, the best age group coach I could be in my county, in my state. I got to be the head coach of a high school team, tried to win some high school state championships, start trying to put people on national junior teams. Then we're trying to win national junior medals. I had the opportunity to be at the Olympic camp with the U.S. in 2021. That was a great experience, which I think helped set me up to be able to kind of navigate some of the camp stuff with Canada. But I certainly wasn't ready for what summer is. It's not just like one event and hey, you're getting ready for one day. Certainly, there's a lot of management of all of it, but I think I talked about this when I was in Calgary. The When we used to go to YMCA Nationals, obviously not the same type of meet from a pressure standpoint, but we used to take 40 kids to that meet, and most of them were swimming somewhere around 8 to 14 times, something like that. Actually, the guy that coaches near you, Michael Brooks, he
Yeah.
used to talk about. I think it was 16 times. He got his athletes ready to swim 16 times in 5 days. So I drew a lot of my experience on talking about managing emotions through a swim meet, and learning to. Sometimes we talk about if you got a bottle of soda, right, and it's ready to be opened, and you could open that thing all the way up and it'll explode. We try to like just slowly twist that cap off and use that energy all the way through. Um, For me, Scott was my roommate. You can ask Scott. I was, you're up till, I don't know, whatever we were. Some nights, if you're in drug testing, you're up till 1 or 2 in the morning. And I'd go to bed and I'd get back up. What were we, probably leaving at like 9 o'clock or something to get
Ouais,
there.
pas de ça.
And meet starts, I can't even remember now. Was it
11.
10:30 or 11? 11?
Yeah.
Um, and then I'd come home and in between sessions, I'd be asleep. They still make fun of me because every chance I got, I took a 30-minute nap, because I was emotionally, I was emotionally invested and pretty exhausted while I was there. Um, and so I don't know if I would have ever been 100% ready for that, but I certainly learned a lot about myself and a lot about managing that meet. But again, I've had the luxury of kind of learning as I go and try to really lean into some of the lessons that I've had to learn at the various levels that I've had to coach. So.
So, Brent, so we're going to talk a little bit about summer. It's been how many years now have you been coaching her?
So we're a little over 2 now, like 2.5.
2.5. When you got summer, did you know exactly what you were getting?
Um, she came down and swam for a few weeks with us just to visit and get out of all the COVID stuff. And um, obviously she was really good. Back then, in my mind, well, so she'd come in and my boys are just, we're not gonna let this girl beat us, and she loved that, and they loved it, and so it was a really competitive environment. When she left, I kept paying attention to what she was doing, and did I know that she did I know? I mean, I guess you never know, I guess is the question, right? Like, what happens when the pressure's on? What happens when you've got to do it in a heat? What happens? And so, like, for me, it's kind of been a progression of my expectations. I think I learned long ago working with younger kids is I can see where I think they're capable of going, but you have to be really careful sometimes, like putting your expectations on people. Like, yeah, I've seen enough that I know what you're capable of, but you never really know what's going on in between their ears. And if you aren't careful, you can squash their drive by your expectations. Does that make
Yeah,
sense?
it makes a
So
lot of
it's
sense.
like if I just went up to Summer and said, "Hey, you're going to win 3 gold medals and you're going to break all these world records," she might have interpreted that as a lot of stress. Probably not Summer, to be quite honest. She probably would have been like, "That's awesome. Let's do it." But certainly, I've had athletes that are like that, where my expectations end up being pressure. So I'm just always trying to find like these positive situations to keep the ball rolling. So like for me, the first time she broke a world junior record with me, um, I think was at one of the Pro Series meets. And like we tried to make a big deal out of that. Like, hey, hey, let's keep going. This is just the beginning. And I think also in that swim meet, she really wanted to go head to head with Katie Ledecky. And so we scratched an event, to make sure that she went head to head with Katie straight up. Like those, and she wants those opportunities. So like those are really good teachable moments that if I just kept putting my own expectations on her, I think we'd be missing the process. And the process is so beneficial, the good and the bad stuff. Like when you have the good ones, you got to capitalize on a real positive talk afterwards. And when you have a bad one, you got to lean into what that feels like and learn from it. So to answer your question, I think I definitely the 400 I saw as, man, she can be the greatest ever. and then that other stuff kind of develops around it. And I'm a 400 IM kind of guy. Like I like all the other stuff that goes into trying to build the 400 IM, because you start turning over stones and realizing, how good the 200 free can be, how good the 400 free can be, how good the 800 free can be, how good the 200 back can be, how good, hey, can we continue to develop our 200 breasts like that? That's the fun part about the 400 IM. So I mean, if anything, I definitely saw somebody that was like, hey, we can be one of the best ever, if not, blow this world record open in the 400 IM. The rest of the stuff I think kind of came with the process.
I usually say that, and I learned that with my experience as well as a coach, when you're young, and I'm sure you have been through the same, you see the athlete, you see their quality, and you can, when I say potentially, imagine where they should stand in terms of performance.
Sure.
But when it's us driving this boat and having the motivation for them to reach those times, that's a big mistake. I usually say that it should be them who are
Yeah.
pulling us to that through that potential, and that's one of the biggest advice that I will give now to young coaches, where I think sometimes we are pulling them too much, and it has to come from them. And when it comes really, really from them, this is where you have, I think, the most success, and that
Right.
collaboration going together. You guys, we come with a swimmer as a team, but as always, we cannot force them to do events or think about event that they don't
Especially
have.
nowadays, right?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
you know, you can scare somebody into doing something once or twice, but it's after that, we talk about it at an age group level. Well, we use the driving the bus analogy. When these kids are young, the coaches are driving the bus, and the kids are getting on and off, and then they kind of get to later middle school, maybe early high school, and we want them, like, we're still driving, but we want them in the seat behind us, telling us where they want to go. Like, they've got the map and they're telling us where they want to go. But man, by the time they get out of high school, I want them driving the bus and I'm sitting in the seat, me reading the map, telling them, directing them where we want to go. Like, that's how I want to see the progression of that through our program, because certainly international level swimming is, especially as it becomes more pro oriented and there's more money in it, and those guys are running the show. And if you talk to the Major League Baseball guys or the NFL guys or NHL guys, they're the ones that are in control of their careers, but they trust those coaches enough to be part of their inner circle. So yeah, I agree with you 100%. It's got to be internal at some point.
He has to. He has to. You are 40 years old, and you have a lot of experience at the national level and at the international level now. Uh, I'm sure you have been coaching more than 20 years, 20,
Maybe about there, yeah,
yeah.
a
So
little over.
about all the athletes you have seen, and to talk about summer mindset, and what is sh what shocked you the most, and what do you like about her mindset today?
Um, well, she is, when she makes her mind up on something, that's it. That's it. She's most kids are already pretty black and white anyway, because they just haven't had the experiences to know all the gray that's in the world. But man, you add a highly competitive part to it, and it can be, she's extremely driven. That's the most impressive part. And for instance, like, I'll give a perfect example. That I gave a talk, and I have a clip of her last 15 meters of that 200 IM at the games. I wouldn't consider like that the most beautiful race or anything of hers, but there was no way that she was going to lose. In her mind, she never even gave herself an option of anything less than winning. and she did everything she had to do to get that hand on the wall. And it didn't matter if it was pretty, didn't matter if it was, she was just going to do it. And that's what's special is she can take her body to a place that most people are not willing to go. And to be quite honest, she can stay there for quite some time. That, and I think all the great ones have an element of that. I've never seen somebody that can, she's learning to be able to turn that on and turn that off. And I think that's the most impressive and scary part because man, if she learns to control that, it's just going to be, it's going to be even scarier down the road. And I certainly see her becoming more confident. We talk a lot about being poised and when it gets hard under stress, don't just yeah, being poised under stress. And I think she just continues to get better and better at that. um so yeah, I mean, I think that's the most impressive piece is she
We
just willing to go to a place that most people won't.
we and on the coaching side of it, on the coachability side of it, I guess she's an athlete who love to learn, would challenge you sometimes. Uh,
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, she's certainly challenging in all the right ways. I appreciate why are we doing this, or really, we haven't had a whole lot of those conversations. It's more, hey, I want to work on this. What do you think? And what can we do in order to make this work? The breaststroke is a perfect example. And kind of going back to my opinions on like teachable moments. She was really down after US Open a year ago.
yeah,
Yeah, year ago.
Scarborough,
About her, what's that?
the one in Scarborough in North Carolina.
Yeah, North Carolina. Yeah, she and her 200 breaststroke was okay. It was all right. And man, she was pissed about it. She was not happy about it. She wanted to get it better. And so we talked about a few things. Hey, we watched some video. But to her credit, she took all of that stuff, internalized it, and then went to work for 3 or 4 months on, hey, this is what I'm going to fix. Um, I guess if I had to be like critical, I wish sometimes that we didn't have to have um, those tough swims in order to learn that stuff. But I'm not sure that somebody at her level, that I think that's the only way that she does learn is, you know, and maybe the 200 backstroke from a week and a half ago will be the same thing. It's like, all right, what you weren't thrilled about it, still your best time. Okay, what do you want to do and where do you want to go from there? We haven't had that conversation yet. I'm sure we'll have some conversation about that. Um, but I think at an athlete at their level, that's the only way to learn is you take a couple lumps and then have to talk through it.
For sure, for sure. I want to talk a little bit about specific training, specific set, maybe one or two, but we share one good set in the training camp before the Olympic with Mary and Summer, where they had the chance to race each other and see where they how it went, and I really enjoyed those moments. It was really, really fast swim.
Sure.
They were dropping some 55, quite quite in a comfortable way, working for the 4x2 relay. But if you have to pick and I like to share that with my audience, like one specific set where she really, really, really impressed you, like you were like, wow, like that's really world class what she did there. Like, what would be that set?
Uh, Man, that's actually a really hard one because she's so consistent. Um, she doesn't have every now and then she'll have a bad day, but most of the time she's just way above average almost all the time. And a lot of that is I got to give her credit on the way that she recovers and takes care of herself outside the pool. She comes every day, wrings it out, but then goes home and takes care of herself. Trying to think of like I don't know. We do a lot of similar stuff. I think her gift is like being able to go fast for a really long time. Like her speed endurance is pretty outstanding. Um, I don't know. I mean, I guess the ones that stick out to me are when I try to throw some real hard stuff. Actually, Dave Johnson was on deck. I threw like a four. It was like a 4 grand meter set at them, and it ended with I think it was a 600 on like on 630, 105 base, long meters, and she missed it, but it was like the most excited I've ever been. Um, and because I was like, man, you rung it out. Like those are the things, those are the ones I remember is like where I'm trying to test her and we don't like go to failure all the time, but I felt like that day we had a really good week. It was time to see like what she could do. And I think later that day, I can't remember if it was her or a mom or somebody, but I'm not like as you've talked about, like I'm not the most like outgoing guy. I try to be pretty quiet. I want my compliments to mean something. I want my suggestions to mean something. I don't want to be, I try not to be too high or too low. But that day, I mean, I reached over, fist bump, that was awesome. Congratulations. And I think it was either mom or her, said something along the lines of like I was super excited. They were astounded that I was excited about her missing a 600 at the end. I was like, yes, because that's the best part of like finding your limits is why we do this stuff. That's the way I look at it. So like stuff like that I think is interesting. But like if I had to say one set, we do a lot of stuff that's like, hey, we'll go 100 from the blocks. Let's just say like 400 IM type work. We're gonna go 100 from the blocks on 2 minutes. Um, I'd like her to be, this would be unsuited, so I'd like her to be, plus 2 seconds of what she wants to be out in the 100 fly of the 200 IM, or I mean the 400 IM, which is, that you're moving. And then we'll back it up with either set it up as transitions or you'll go some hundreds and fifties, but hey, maybe we'll go 3 100s back, trying to be um, uh, 400 pace. Hey, we're going to go 850s, second 50 a breaststroke. Um, and then we'll go a 200 all out freestyle on the end. And somebody like that, I mean, she can be 2 minutes or faster on a 200 on the end. Um, we were leading in the Olympics. We were doing various versions of 40 50s, and sometimes we'd go. I normally load more breaststroke and free, and we'll just do them on a minute. And you're trying to be rate and stroke count, time for the second 50 of the 400 IM. And you could play with that a million different ways. Sometimes we'll go 4 fly, sometimes we'll go 8 fly, whatever, and then just kind of play with it. Man, she just does a really nice job on that kind of stuff. And a few times I've seen her do some pretty impressive. That was earlier this fall, so short yards. I think we finished a 3,000 yard set with a 300 backstroke, and I want to say she was well under 250 on a 300 backstroke. So like, she does some pretty special stuff in swim practice. So, and thank God we've got a couple of boys that can hang with her because it makes it fun. Makes it fun for her.
What is great for you, and that's what I love about my job, is when you have an athlete like this, I love the creation part about what we do. And when you have an athlete like this, is forcing you to create more, to
Yep.
create stuff where she's going to be challenged more. And I like the way you talk about that 600 set on 630. Whoa, that's quite fast. That's quite fast. Unsuited, that's it. Unsuited.
No, 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 no. It was just, yeah, she was just it was kind of a descent set all the way through. Just ended with a really fast 600. No.
Wow, 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 wow. So let's talk about like now the Olympics are done. We finish world, and I like to have a short goal mindset, and I have a big picture as well in mind, which is 2028.
Sure.
it's gonna be special for you because that's gonna be the Olympics in the US. And and I know that for me, being in Paris was special because I grew up in France as well, and I think it's going to be the same for you,
So
the same pride. What's are the goal? What is next for you now? Like, how are you going to approach the next season and that plan going toward to 2028?
yeah, so a lot of it will be obviously we have some overarching goals that we've talked about, but to be honest, we haven't even sat down and debriefed this fall yet. We will definitely do that in January, and that'll help kind of shape what direction we want to go. Certainly going to find some ways to challenge her differently. I'm certainly going to respect the fact that she's becoming a young lady, and that there's going to be some other opportunities out there, and there's going to be some things she's going to want to try, and I want to help her through that process as well. Um, but for me, it's hey, if we want this IM to continue to develop, we continue to work on the back and the fly, or excuse me, the back and the breast. The she's kind of mentioned it a couple of times. We don't do a ton of fly, and at least not straight up fly. We do. I mean, I would say we do plenty of fly, but it's pretty broken up, and it's part of training for the IM. So I think there's an opportunity there. I take notes during swim meets, and um, one of the things that I want to do is I want to pull a little more. I continue to. I think her freestyle's gotten a lot better. Um, we've talked a lot about kicking through her breath, and I think it's gotten better, but we still have some stuff that we can work on. I really want to spend some time uh, evaluating what the right number of dolphin kicks is for her. And then I want her to be able to have that information and go work on it. So those are kind of like the technical things. Then for me, from a coaching standpoint, the challenge for somebody like Summer is just trying to find meaningful race opportunities that we can learn from. So that we're going to continue to get creative on that front. Just trying to find places where she can be challenged, and because that's the only way, as we've talked about already a few times, is that's the only way I can get really good information is when she's legitimately challenged.
That's a great answer, and I want to come back from that jump on the 400 freestyle, and this is for me the best meet she ever had was her ability in Fukuoka to bounce back on a day one where I think she was the world record holder on the 400 free, and expectations were kind of big. She knew she was going to race Titmus and Ledecky on that race. Obviously, knowing her, she was going for it, and she believed she could win that race. The race didn't go as expected, and I'm sure she was. And you're going to talk to me more about this. She was feeling pissed and not in the best mood after that race and after the relay. But the way she bounced back, to me, that's what I love the most about our job. And when we go through moment of struggle, I would say for Mary and I was the example of the Olympics where I was supposed to swim the 4x1 at night because she did good there and she totally missed her race on the morning and she wasn't being able to have a second chance to swim at night. But the 200 free was coming up. So that coaching part is very important. They are not the best enjoyable moments, but they
Yeah,
are
sure.
the best learning moment, the best coaching moment. So let's talk about that moment where she had a day one who wasn't close from her expectation, and now she bounced back from it because she won multiple race behind. And she, like, I love to take the example of Alain Bernard, who lose a relay against the US in 2008, if I don't mistake, where she is a world record holder, and Jason Lesac make a crazy race. French lose the relay, but the guy is Olympic champion two days after on the 100 free. So that shows a lot of poise, a lot of character. So what's your take on that?
Well, I think one, you got to give her credit. You got to give her family credit. They've certainly raised a young lady who is resilient. They haven't overly emphasized winning, or results. It's about doing your best, doing things to the best of your capabilities. And then, I mean, for her, I mean, again, we're talking, teenage girl walking in. I mean, there's just so many variables in that particular swim, and I can talk about it much easier now than I could, a year ago or a year and a half ago. Um, the variables of, hey, being the world record holder, what are those expectations? It's been dubbed the swim of the meet. Before it's even gone off. You definitely are getting everybody's best effort because they don't want this little girl to be beating them, and so it's dealing with all of that stuff all at once. um and again, that conversation afterwards was, I mean, she was pissed. She was upset. And I just kind of sat there, and I mean, I remember it. I remember sitting there very vividly and just, hey, when you're ready, we need to talk about it, but I'm not going to push. And when she was ready, she talked, and I'll keep most of the details, personal, because, she was very self-critical, but um, she was very honest with how it all laid out. Um, and she was willing to learn, listen to me, listen to herself, and work through it. And I think that's the nobody nobody doesn't have those spots in their career. It's how you respond to them. I know so many athletes, little kids, that, or their parents are like, well, I'm getting beat by this guy. I used to never get beat by this guy. And then they just shut down. And to Summer's credit, she did the opposite. She got fired up. And I know that really helped leading into the preparation and into the Olympic Games. To be quite honest, I think that it's it was a positive in the long term. It sucked in the moment,
Mhm.
but in the long run, it was a pivotal spot for her and her preparation into the games, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's a great answer as well. Like she was and she show how can I call that, the Mamba mentality aspect
Yeah, yeah,
of
right.
of her right there. And that's why she's a champ. Let's talk about you as a coach and your journey. And you touched that a little bit at the beginning, and I know what kind of organization you run, but like I like people to know a little bit more about it. You're CEO of your team. Uh, I have a good friend in Florida. His name is Chris Anderson.
Yeah,
I'm sure you know Chris very
yeah,
well.
yeah.
And I was asking, and I love to ask, what is the best club in Florida? And I was telling you today, do you have the best club in Florida today? Are you the Sarasota Sharks swim club, the best club in Florida today?
Yeah, I don't know about that. I certainly think that we're in the conversation. Um, we Bowles is very good. Chris is probably the best. So Florida we have LSCs, so it would be kind of like your provinces. Kind of. We have three LSCs in the state of Florida. So part of the Panhandle is this southeastern LSC. Florida Swimming is the biggest part of the LSC, and then Chris is down there in the Gold Coast, Gold Coast, and it's a smaller LSC. Our LSC is probably 12,000 athletes, something like that, 11,000 athletes, I think. Uh, so we certainly have a lot of competition. There's St. Pete, about 45 minutes north of us. They do a great job. Um, the hard thing in the United States is we've got I guess we would be considered like a large club, but we're certainly not 1,000 people. I mean, we're about a 350 person club, um, give or take, depending on the time of year. So we're not giant, but we're certainly not small. We're all out of one site, and we kind of like it that way. We used to be a YMCA team, and the YMCA went out of business, and so we took over the operations of the facility, which was quite an undertaking. I created a nonprofit to help run the club and the facility, so that we did that in 2017. And so that was a big undertaking and kind of a big risk to be quite honest. But I'm certainly glad we did it. The Sarasota Sharks are they've been around since 1960, and they've had multiple Olympians. And I mean, it's been a very strong club forever, and it's in a nice little community. It's kind of it's not really small anymore, but used to be kind of a beach town. So everybody's swimming, and it's just a way of life. And swimming and the Sharks have been an important piece to the community for a long time. So we felt pretty strongly that we needed to try and make sure that this thing survived, even though the YMCA went out of business. And so that was, I mean, again, kind of a risk for me professionally, but I think it's paid off. And so I think that gives us I don't know. I guess it gives us a lot of headaches, but it also gives us a lot of freedoms all
Yeah.
at the same time. So, I'm happy to share whatever else you want to know about the career, but I've been here since 2010, and so almost 15 years now, and I became the head coach in 2014. So,
Who was at the time, and because we all have mentor and people who guide us, who inspire us. I know we share a little bit of that, and I talked to you about this. I think it was in Japan with Anthony Nesty,
mhm.
and I think you know him very well as well. But can you talk about who are the people in your journey who help you the
Yeah.
most and gave you the best advice, and what kind of advice they gave you?
Lots of man, I've been super lucky. I swam for a pretty well-known club out of Orlando, with some world-class coaches there, and I was a little kid, but it was just world-class stuff going on all the time. And so that was kind of my first exposure to all of that. I don't know if I really knew what was going on. I was, 11, 12, 13 kind of deal. Then I swam for Clay Parnell in outside of Orlando. It's basically Orlando. Um, and he's had a very successful club there for a really long time. I was recruited by Arthur Albiero to University of Alabama, so I got to swim for Arthur for a little while. Him and Don Wagner were at Alabama in the early 2000s. So I got exposed to, obviously, Arthur's turned into one of the best coaches in the world. Um, and then I ended up back in Gainesville and started coaching masters. That was how I got into. I mean, I guess I coached a little bit, did swim lessons and stuff when I was a kid, teenager for a job. But then I started coaching masters when I was in Gainesville, and then that evolved into working with the club. And there I worked for Chris Oliver and Nancy Hennessy, who you might not have heard of them, but they're some of the best age group coaches in the country. They were at Nashville Aquatic Club, they were at Bowls, and then they took over at Gator Swim Club. And for me, those guys kind of gave me the bones of how I see development. They were constantly having me write progressions and think about how you were going to develop 8-year-olds to 18-year-olds. And then I got the opportunity to start volunteering with the post grad group in Gainesville. So, I mean, at any given time, I was coaching 8 and unders, and then coaching, Lochtey's group, the group that had, Lochte and the Fraser brothers. And I mean, there were all kinds of crazy athletes there at the time. And so at any given day, I was thinking about how would I get an 8-year-old to turn into a 25-year-old world class athlete. And I think that was pretty invaluable. So Coach Troy, Martin Wilby, Anthony Nesty. They were the three that really day to day after Chris and Nancy were helping me develop kind of what Chris and Nancy were teaching me from an age group end, and then they helped me develop what I believed in from a high performance. And so then in 2010, I needed a place to live. I mean, I was making $600 a month or whatever, trying $700 a month, trying to live in Gainesville, which was fine, but I'm never going to have a family or anything like that.
Kind of
So
tight, kind of tight.
yeah. So I moved to Sarasota, where Steve Brown brought me in, and Steve Brown, he actually moved on to University of Arizona for a little bit, and now he's at North Carolina Aquatic Club, and he's doing a great job there. And he was certainly instrumental in my development. Part of me wanting to go to a bigger club was kind of learning the business side and how to manage a bigger club. And I mean, I remember telling Troy brought me in his office and asked me what I wanted. I said, well, I want to be a head coach by the time I'm 30. And he said, all right, well, let's go to work, and he was pretty tough on me and had high expectations. And part of my maturation process was, hey, these guys had taught me how to coach, and now I wanted to go learn about an actual club. I guess I never really cared if it was going to be college or if it was going to be club, or I just wanted to coach, and I just make the best out of wherever I am. And so then the opportunity came here to interview for the head coaching job, and things. I guess some people would consider it lucky, but it's just like anything. You don't get lucky unless you're ready, unless you're prepared. So
That's a long
um,
grind.
yeah, so again, I've been very fortunate in my path, but I've also worked my ass off. And when I get opportunities, then I try to take advantage of them. And probably the best part about my situation is got a wife who was a international level swimmer, so she gets it, she supports it, and it gives me the freedom to take risks and coach hard because she has a really good job. And if this didn't work out, we'd be fine. So I get to coach really hard, and I've got a family that supports it. So that helps.
You always wanted to be an international coach. You knew when you started at the master's level or the swimming coach lesson when you were young that you were be where you are here now, or were you just dreaming of it, or it was just a simple goal that you have?
It's a good question. I never really set out to be this international coach. I knew I wanted to be in charge. I guess I would say that. I knew I wanted to be in charge because I love swimming, and I wanted to be in control of my destiny as best I could. I don't know if international level swimming was like the goal, but my goal has always been coach whatever I've got in front of me and coach it to the best of my ability. And if that means that they're ready to be international level swimmers, I'm not afraid of that. I always wanted to be comfortable on the age group deck or the Olympic deck. And now that I've been there, they're all just swimming pools, man. They're all just swimming pools. And there's some unique stuff in each situation, but for me, it was just whatever I've got in front of me, I want to do right by the people that are in front of me. And uh, I think that's been the goal. Yeah, I don't think I ever sat down and wrote my goals that I wanted to be an international coach. I just wanted to do right by people. And if somebody told me they wanted to be an international level athlete, I was going to help them do that. But as I get older and I think about, I've got little kids here now, and I think about me as a little kid. I was super intense and wanted to be really good. I remember having pictures of Tom Dolan all over the place, and
Great for that I am again.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So I think I've always been interested in that kind of stuff, and I think when I realized that I wasn't ever going to be one of those guys, that if I could take my experiences and help people do that if that's what they wanted to do. But kind of back to one of our original conversations today is, if you don't want to be the international level athlete, there's only so much you can do. So like again, I just come back to, man, if you tell me you want to be, it's kind of like my experience with Troy. I told Troy I wanted to be a head coach by the time I was 30. And so he helped me do that to the best of his ability. And, I think I got the head coaching job at 29, turning 30, I just feel the same way about setting goals. And when these athletes go, hey, I want to be on a national junior team, like, okay, do you understand what that takes? Here's what I think it takes in order to be on the national junior team. You've told me you want to do it. What are you willing to do to achieve that goal? um, I think that relationship and that agreement is the key.
So let's talk about like one of the challenges I think we have in Canada, and as a club coach, I'm sure you are going through the same process. Lots of athletes, and probably with Summer, it's going to be the same question. And I don't know where she's going to go. Maybe you can give me some answer right there. But a lot of young athletes move to the club program than to the college program,
Sure.
with some success for some and with less success for some other. We don't talk a lot about those athletes who are great in their club and became kind of didn't become what they could have become when they were developing their club going through the university. So that's probably a challenge for you guys because you are coaching them at the junior level, and then they move through college where they go to are supposed to go to the senior level. Some of them come back to your club during the summertime to train with you. I don't know if it's the situation for you right now, but how do you see yourself, like, for example, with Summer, managing that? I heard rumors, I'm not gonna lie, about you, and of course, with the success that you have, you're gonna have opportunity to coach in college. Is that something you start to think about more? Do you see that relationship being prioritized and stick ahead of everything until 2008, and then make a move, or maybe move together? What's your takes on that?
Well, man, so you got a lot of questions in there. Let's
Yeah.
see if I can answer a few. So I guess first, the relationship with Summer and I is fantastic, and I will be here in whatever capacity she wants moving forward. Again, we've talked about it. She's in control of this ship. Um, it's her career. If she wants me to be a part of it, I will be a part of it in any way that she wants me to be. Um, I'm not super interested in moving my family anywhere. So, I mean, as far as like college coaching and that kind of thing, I don't want to say no, but it would have to make it so like my wife wouldn't have to work, or it would only have to work part time. And we've got a really great situation here. We've got uh, I mean, man, we've got a 70-meter pool. We're putting in a 25-meter pool right now. Like there's just not a lot of I don't have a lot of needs. And to be quite honest, our pool is better than a lot of college facilities. So it's, I'm not itching to go take a college job somewhere. Um, but certainly those two things are what Summer does. I'm certainly going to have to get creative if this is where she's going to set up shop for an extended period of time leading into this quad and stuff like, hey, we're going to have to go find camps and places to do things and all of that. And me managing my time and managing my staff is certainly challenging, but it's done. We've already been doing it. I've got an awesome staff here. I mean, I tell everybody I might be the worst coach on my staff. I mean, I've got guys that are just incredible coaches. Some of them are retiring in Sarasota. Some of them are specific to strength and conditioning. We've got an age group guy that's what he wants to do. I've got a guy who's a lifelong shark who can coach at any level that I ask him to. Some of these guys have been with me for 10 or 12 years. So,
Mhm.
the so I guess that's the college thing moving forward. So what else? What else within that question?
Yes, I mean, just now that when you see those athlete leaves and what
Oh, so
that
yeah, yeah,
brings us
yeah.
to the next subject, but like I wanted to talk about because we are coming back from Worlds short course, and obviously everyone is amazed by the amount of world record there is there, which was 30. But to me, the number who resonate the most is just in 2024, just eight world record at the Olympics,
Sure.
long course. And the US team is not what they used to be. There is more challenge. There is the rest of the world became better. Kelly Ledecky is still dominating. She's still bringing a lot of gold medal for the US team. But how, and do you see it the same way than I do, which is like now I think that a lot of successfully international swimmers train in the US, but are not really American. And the US swimming world is kind of less dominating than it used to be. Um,
Yes. So again, I mean, this is like a 2 hour podcast, this conversation in and of itself. So I think that certainly how we look at, we being the US, how we look at long course versus short course swimming needs to be evaluated. Um, these guys that are in college, they get paid to be really good in the short course pool, and that's fine. That there's nothing wrong with that. Um, and so I think there is an element of prioritizing the long course pool that needs to be addressed. But I also think that as I look at careers now and as the sport gets a little bit older, I'm almost seeing it in my mind as like Summer is a kind of anomaly, and it could because she's so young, but she's still a developmental athlete. She just happens to be a high performance developmental athlete. That's the way I view it. You've got these high school kids that you're developing, and then that's kind of phase one. Phase two is this post high school career, and I think college, that was always the United States uh, advantage, was there was a place for our 19, 20, 21, 22 year olds to go, and they could continue to get better. And then I think there's a third phase that is, true post grad um, uh, training and high performance. Um, the I think because in the United States, the we had such an opportunity because there was not everybody had the money to have a place for your really good athletes to train once they were out of prep school, whatever you would call it in any other country. I think what a lot of the other countries have done very well is they've learned to identify the talent that they've got and then put the money there to support them. And Canada does a very nice job of that too. They've set up a situation where they're flexible on how people are training and where they're training, but they're going to support them wherever they are. And I think that that's what you're seeing. I don't know for sure. You might know better than me, but these European guys, even the ones that are coming to the United States, my guess is some of their federations are helping them as
they do.
well.
They do.
So so there's so there. I think what the rest of the world has figured out is if you identify your talent and support it the right way, it can be really good, which in my opinion is the difference right now. I don't necessarily, I'm not always like a doom and gloom, the sky is falling, USA swimming is not as good as it needs to be. I mean, are there some places where I think we could be better? Sure. I'm pretty vocal about middle distance swimming. We need to continue to develop, and I'd like to see our 4x2 be better, that kind of thing. But I mean, we're pretty damn good in the sprints, and the college system is producing very good 200 and down swimming. There's no doubt about that. But I think the difference is the rest of the world has gotten better about funding and allocating funds to the right people. And USA Swimming is probably doing the same thing we've always done, which I think that we need to evaluate that. I think it's more of a commentary for how the rest of the world has gotten better at identifying talent and supporting it.
So you think in 2028 we're gonna have a US team we might be more dominating than ever,
Well,
or it's
I
gonna take
certainly,
time?
yeah, I think it's going to take time. I certainly hope so. But I think it's going to take time, and I think there's certainly going to be some tweaks, and whoever comes in as the CEO and the national team director, they certainly have their work cut out for them. But man, we've got the numbers, we've got the funding. It just keep pushing it in the right direction is what those jobs are for, and I think it could certainly get a lot better. Um, and it could be scary, right? Like, I mean, if you have as many athletes as the United States has, and we put all of our energy into winning medals, I think that we could be even better than we've ever been. But as far as passing kids off onto the next level, you know, I kind of straddle that fence, right? I've got kids that I'm passing on all the time that have been with us for 10 years, 8 years. Um, and it's hard for me to say. We've got some really good coaches in the NCAA, but it's also on some of these kids. They come from, I actually feel like some of the issues are some of these kids are coming from homes where everything's done for them. Everything life's pretty easy.
Mhm.
They haven't had to do too much themselves, and then they go away to college, and the first semester is like, holy shit! Like I'm on my own here. I don't have mom and dad here to help me. I don't have a special tutor. I don't have special meals being cooked for me. And sometimes these kids just don't recover from that. And so for me, it kind of goes back to our original conversation about what's the internal drive and how much responsibility are you going to take for your swimming when you leave here? I can only blame coaches so much. Like you and I wouldn't allow an athlete to blame us 99% for a performance. Like
Mhm.
they have to take some ownership. They have to take most of the ownership. Because as I tell the athletes, we don't get up at 4:30 in the morning to go to the pool deck to make you worse, right? So I'm doing everything I think I possibly can to make you better. Are you doing all the other things outside the pool? Are your habits outside the pool what they used to be now that mom and dad aren't telling you to go to bed at 9:30 at night? So there's a lot of that stuff that I think is challenging for college coaches. And then on top of it, the college coaches are in a tough spot because if they are heavy-handed, they've got somebody going to the administration telling them that they're being mean because they're mad at them because they found out that they were out on Friday night, and you weren't as good as you were supposed to be on Saturday, and the coach is calling you out on it. And again, there's obviously a pendulum there. You can be an asshole and get yourself in trouble, but at the same time, it's getting harder and harder to hold these kids accountable. And then you get blamed for them not swimming fast. It's like my hands are kind of tied sometimes. So I think there's a lot of forces at work, and I try not to blame any one person. Certainly the short course pool and the long. I guess to put a bow on all of this, I think the short course pool and the long course pool are becoming drastically different. There's no
Very,
doubt in
very
that.
different. Very different.
And so allocating your time appropriately to both, I think is important, because I actually am a believer that I don't think you need to train for long course all the time. I think your skills get bad if all you're doing is long course all
I
the time,
agree.
and you lose some speed too. But I also think that if you're training all short course all the time, it's very hard to feel through the last 15 meters of a 50 or 100, or trying to accelerate in and out of the wall. So I think there's a place for all of it.
Yeah, it's a great answer. Listen, we are going to the end of it, and I have a few last questions, and I want to go through
Sure.
with you. If you have to give a moment that now in swimming you're gonna and share with everyone, like a moment like so far you are going to remember for the rest of your life at 40 years old now with the career that you had, what, like, if you have to pick like one moment in coaching at the Olympics or out of it, what would be that moment for you? Like an extremely proud moment, or what could it be?
Um, oh man. I'm just gonna do the first thing that pops in my head, but I'm gonna have to think on this. I might come back to you at some point, but I'll tell you probably the most proud um, I've been is the summer touching that wall in the 200 IM, whatever that was, swim number 12 of the swim meet. Uh, what I consider the best heat that she was in, and winning that medal. And then I actually remember you might have been standing there, but do you remember when the under review popped up and I was like,
Yeah,
oh man,
yeah,
this is gonna be rough because at first was like, I hope it's not summer, right? And then I went to, man, I hope it. I'm just glad that summer won that thing outright because I wouldn't have wanted her to, and I don't think she would want it to have won by a disqualification. It's like so. I just remember the emotions of all that, but I remember just being the most proud of that one because she came off that 150 wall on a mission and there just aren't many people doing that on swim number whatever it was of the Olympic Games in the moment, in the heat, in the best heat, with the crowd going. I mean, it's just pretty impressive stuff.
um, talk about your Team Canada moment as a Canadian team coach now from the US. I always love to see you with a Canadian jersey on the team. I know there is a lot of jokes about that, but what's your takes on the Canadian mentality and what did you learn from being with a group, I guess? And for me, that's the same. Like I come from Africa and France, and now I'm living in Canada. But still, when I'm around Canadian coaches, the culture is different. I had to adapt and learn and to know a little bit more about my coaches, the coaches around me, and how to interact with them and how to be me as well.
Sure.
How
Yeah.
how did it go for you? And I remember, I think one of the great time I had at the games was that night that we shared together. We won't give
Yep. Yep.
details, but but that was great. And I think we need those moments in a competition like this. It's very important to decompress and relax a little bit. But what's your
Yeah.
take?
So I mean, the originally I know it was very unorthodox to have an American on, a non-Canadian based coach being on staff.
Mhm.
And so it certainly I think it was added pressure for me. One, I wanted to be the best that I possibly could because some people took some chances and did some unorthodox things to put me on the staff. For instance, that 400 free, the first time in Fukuoka, I felt awful on a lot of levels. It's like, man, these guys took a risk on me. We weren't where we wanted to be. Those were the thoughts that were going through my head at first, and then also making sure that hey, I've been on staffs before, so like trying to get along and be able to give my constructive opinion without stepping on people's toes and trying to fall in line, but also making sure that I'm making an impact. I think at first, and maybe it's some of it was me, right? But I feel like I had to walk on eggshells a little bit up front, and then I've really come to find that. I mean, I've made friends with all of you guys. I would say that that first trip to Fukuoka was a little more lonely, but by the end it was um, I felt like I had some good relationships, and I think really helped going into the games and into this one especially because um, I think I'm being utilized. A lot of these guys swim for American coaches, and I have some relationships with the American coaches. So I've found a little niche in here, and that's also good for summer. So summer has people to train with. If I have a group, and it's not just summer by herself. So I mean, I wouldn't say that it was easy up front, but some of it might have been a little self-inflicted. But I certainly was sensitive to that this was an unorthodox thing for Canada. But fast forward a year and a half later, I'm very proud to be part of the group. I've made some good friends and I've learned a lot, and that's been a lot of fun. And I also I've also found that when I talk to you guys, there everybody has the same issues. Like, there are always these struggles between maybe the local club or the national governing body, or and we do the same thing in the United States. It's like, it's everybody else's fault, or we all have these opinions. What I have found is like you talked about, I think you just need to vent and talk through things, and then go back to what your little domain is and try to do the best you possibly can with your domain. But I don't think that happens without having these relationships and opportunities.
What are the major differences mentality-wise between the US team and the Canadian team? Because you have been on many, many US team. You were the head coach on the US team in Panama. So if you have to like pick one point on each side, differences, what would it be?
More similarities than differences. I would say that first. I think here I think there's a picture of me picking up the Canadian flag at Fukuoka because
Yes.
it was
I
like
have
for
it.
me, and I think I put something in the group chat there. For me, like, man, that flag, the American flag is a sacred thing, and you can rally people around it. And I'm not sure that it's not for Canada, but like I guess that's a difference that I thought was it, to me was astounding. Like, man, you don't let that flag touch the ground. That's that, so I think that in Canada, I think there's people that want to win. Um, but I think that I don't know. Yeah, the biggest difference. I don't know, man. Yeah, I don't know. Again, more similarities than differences. I would say.
I see
I,
the prideness of being an American is,
yeah,
for some people, I don't think it's interpreted the right way.
sure,
Some people think it's cocky. Americans are cocky, or they're just like they just don't care about the rest of the world. They care just about themselves or whatever. I love the attitude of the
sure.
American, how they stand when they have a national anthem, how pride they are to swim for USA. It means something, and I think it gives them a little edge to compare with some other country who are probably more shy about who they are.
Yes,
They don't
yes.
express themselves the same way. I think for me the major difference is right there when I see, for example, Lily King swim, or Katie Ledecky swims, or Fink swims. They are great swimmer, but I feel like when they have this US cap, they are giving a little
It's
bit.
another level.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
another level. Yeah, and I think that some of the aggressiveness gets. I think to your point, the Americans could be outwardly a little more aggressive and outspoken, and I think, like you said, sometimes people misinterpret that. I agree, and I would say that the Canadians are a little more. I don't know if respectful is the right word, but like a little more proper and cordial. Where you get some of the finger wagging and all that stuff from the United States, and people get really pissed about it. But that's just kind of how it goes.
I wanted to add that question before, and I totally forgot. And you manage a club, I do. I think one of the biggest not struggle, but challenge, let's say, that I have to deal with not being part of the college. And the college have to deal with all those rules. We talk about that. It's very different. And that's hard for the coaches to be themselves, actually, really,
Yeah.
really there. For us club coaches, one of the challenge we have is to manage the parents.
Yep.
So how do you handle this? What would be one or two advice you could give to some other coaches to teach and collaborate with parents a little bit more? Because for me, they are a part of the side,
Yep.
the circle. I mean, I was talking to Mary parents not such a long time ago at the airport, and I was so happy. And I told Mary mom that, without you, it would not be possible. I think there is a triangle where
Yep.
they can help the athletes to during the struggle moment, like you talk about with Summer, to be better, to go through some stuff where we cannot go as coaches. And there is a relationship that we have with the athletes and the relationship that we should have with the parents as well, to understand better the context and to know them a little bit better, because some information sometimes comes from the parents, you know.
It,
So
so for us, it's two things. We have a parent curriculum, and so when you come into our program, you're given some stuff, especially like at the 8 and under level. We give you each level has some expectations for the parents, and it's a progressive thing that goes through, and kind of like we talked about the driving the bus thing. We're driving that bus, and that's what we're trying to teach the parents. Hey, coach is coach, swimmer swim, parents parent here, but we're gonna make sure that we respect those roles, and then kind of what that looks like as you go through. But
yeah,
we actually have that written out, like an actual parent curriculum that's written out, and so each lead coach along the way is responsible for talking about this stuff at parent meetings. That would be my second thing, is have parent meetings, especially with the younger kid groups. Um, Probably a couple of times a year. I mean, we try to do it fall and winter usually. Now with the older groups, we're usually once a year, because they've been in the program for a longer time. And then probably the third thing is creating healthy boundaries. Um, One of the things that um, I used to be bad about, and I think since I've had kids, it's made me evaluate things a little bit more. Um, I used to have parent meetings at 7:30 at night, at 5 o'clock in the morning. I would answer my emails all the time. I've had to explain to the membership that this is my job, and my office hours are X to X. You're welcome to come have a meeting. My door's always open during those times. You're welcome to come have a meeting, but I'm not having parent meetings at 7:30 at night. I'm not, and some people will push back. I mean, they'll say, "Hey, well, I have work." And I'm like, "Well, I have work too. Like this is my job. If I have to have a parent meeting with the teacher at school, they're not doing it at 5 o'clock at night when it's convenient for me. I have to go during the day, or I have to go before school starts, or whatever it may be." So again, not being aggressive, but setting healthy boundaries. The phone. I have told people I have zero obligation to answer a text message from you after 7 o'clock at night. Um, and I might not, and it's my personal phone. So you're welcome to text me, but I might not get back to you. And you can't hold that against me, because I can't be on call all the time. So I think creating healthy boundaries is important. And I think inside of the healthy boundaries thing is make yourself accessible. And I don't do I've been so busy, I don't do quite as good of a job as I used to. We used to have parent socials, and like I would show up to the parent socials, and hey, you go to these parent socials, you have a beer or two, but then you leave. You don't want to be there for beer number 3, 4, and 5 with the parents. I think that you have to be the person in charge, and you have to be the professional when it comes to you've chosen we've chosen to do this as our profession. It's very different than the volunteer baseball coach, it's dad who volunteers for 6 weeks, and then it's over. This is my life, this is my livelihood. So I think explaining that. So those would be my thing, the parent curriculum, and creating really healthy boundaries. And then the last piece is, don't take meetings that don't have agendas. I don't take, I'm not going to get the text message or the email, "Hey, I need to meet with you." Well, okay, what are we meeting about? And there has to be an agenda to the meeting. I'm not walking into a meeting where it can go any direction. So
yeah,
those,
you want to be prepared.
yeah. So I think that, and again, none of that needs to be an aggressive thing. It's a respect thing between you and the parent.
I think they see us in short all day or on deck, and sometimes they don't realize that it's a professional job, like
Yeah, sure.
other job that we talk about. I have Bill Sweetnam told me this story back in 2014, and I did apply one of his advice. The story he told me, I did apply it once, and that helped me a lot. He telling me that one day with his parents calling him at 8 at night. And he doesn't pick up the phone. But his wife did. And he takes a message. And it was about a parent who wanted absolutely to talk to Bill about his son or daughter. I don't really remember, but kids. And Bill and their wife took all the information. And Bill didn't want to answer. But the next day, he woke up at 4.
Yeah.
He called at 4:30. And they pick up the phone. They say, "What's going on?" They say, "You called me last night. I wasn't working. Now I am. Those are my hours. What do you want to talk about?" And the reaction they had was, "Hey, it's 4:30. I can talk." That's the real issue there.
I get it. I agree.
If you don't want me to call you at 4:30, don't call me at 8 at night.
The respect goes both ways. The respect goes both ways, or should go both ways.
It should go this way. And I think that's, like you say, we should learn how to put healthy boundaries into it. And those meetings can help. I'm very interested to see the little document you do. If you could share that with me, that'd be
sure.
very, very, very nice. Last questions to finish. If you have to give an advice to a young coach who are getting through it, a young Brent Arkey, coaching master swim school, and looks ahead of a great career in swimming, what would be your advice?
Learn what empathy is, and that empathy and sympathy are not the same thing. Meaning, you got to meet people where they're at, but you feeling sorry for people is not going to help them be the best that they could possibly be. So find that balance between empathy and sympathy. That'll help you along the way in coaching. And then the other thing I tell young guys is choose your relationships well. Your relationships with parents, your relationships with your significant others. Don't try to be best friends with the parents. It's not necessary. Make sure your relationship with your significant other, they understand what the coaching world is. And then your relationships with food and alcohol and your emotions and how you manage that stuff, because this job can be very difficult. So managing your relationships on all fronts and making sure you develop empathy and know the difference between empathy and sympathy. Those are kind of the two things I tell young guys.
Thank you, Brent. I could talk with you for hours. It's been like, I don't know, today we spent like an hour 30 talking.
It's great.
Thank you so much for coming on the podcast. It was a blast for me. I hope we'll do some more in the future. I'm going to try to invite Summer now to come.
Awesome.
Try to check on what if you would say, if everything you say was
check up on me. No. Yeah, fact check me.
But thank you so much. Thank you so much. I wish you all the best for next year. I wish you all the greetings you deserve for that period of the year. This Christmas coming. So enjoy your time with your family and everything. And hopefully I see you very, very, very soon. Guys, it was episode 64 with the CEO, head coach of Sarasota Sharks Swim Club, Brent Arkey. Thank you, Brent. Thanks for listening to the episode. Stay connected with us and keep comment and like and everything, and just help us to follow the flow on that podcast. So thank you very much. Happy New Year, everyone, and I see you when I see you. Take care.
Thanks, Greg.
Thank you.